So we are going to be starting on week 12 already. And this week's practice, we're going to work on some hip opening postures. And these poses tend to present themselves as either extremely difficult for some people, especially if there's just like a whole lot of tightness in that area. And then there's some people that just kind of end up in the category where they don't have as much of resistance or an issue with it. So don't be upset if you happen to be in the resistance category. Just know that there's something that you're working with. And if you do happen to end up in the category where it's a lot easier for you, I will try to provide some additional modifications and adjustments to help you find a little bit deeper stretch and to find something that you can actually work with. So it doesn't feel like you're just doing nothing. Yeah, and we're going to get started on our back today. So let's go ahead and make our way all the way down onto our back. And as you're setting yourself up onto your back, just allow yourself to stretch out all the way and maybe rock the hips side to side until you can feel that they can relax fully onto the ground. And then again, just allowing your toes to release outwards like pages of a book falling open. Walk the shoulders underneath you and maybe stretch the arms out towards the sides into a downward V shape. Close the eyes if you haven't already. And just begin to breathe in a conscious way. So filling up into belly, chest, and low throat. And exhaling out throat, chest, belly. And just allowing the breath to fill up gradually each time a little bit more than the last. And filling up the breath through the sideways, the low back, another full breath in. Good. With your next in breath, stretch the arms up and overhead, reaching long throughout the entire body through your fingers, through your toes, stretching until you might even yawn. Good. And releasing with a sigh. Let's take both knees into the chest. You can slowly slide your feet up and then adjust the pelvis. So your hands grab a hold of the front of the knees or the back of the thighs and just rock side to side. Just slowly waking up our spine. And you'll start to notice that when we work on opening up the hips, we work in a variety of directions. We can work to the front of the pelvis, the external rotators of the legs, and we can also feel how the sacrum and the back side of the pelvis will open up, as well as the glutes and the hamstrings. So there's a variety of muscles that attach at this area, and sometimes working into the hips will allow us to feel relief perhaps in our low back, or maybe we'll feel a little bit more of that flexibility into our hamstrings. Maybe we will feel that we can stand up a little bit taller and feel just more at ease in that vertical position. All right, take another moment here, and I want you to place your hands on top of your knee pads. So hands are going to cup directly on top. I want you to make big circles with the knees. So you're stirring the knees around, making those circles. And right now you should be feeling the back side of your pelvis sort of making its way around that outer pelvic rim on the back side. You might even feel a little bit of a massage in that tail and the sacrum and all the gluteal muscles. And then circle around in the other direction. So big circles around. Doesn't need to be too fast. In fact, I highly recommend doing it in a slower way so that you can feel all the muscles being massaged that are all along that back side. Another couple circles in this direction. And last circle. And squeezing the knees in towards your chest. All right, let's go ahead and open the knees out wide to the sides. We're going to come into our first posture known as happy baby pose. You're going to bring your feet all the way up towards the sky. So notice how with my knees tucked in towards my chest, I kick from the heels up towards the sky. So I get this 90-degree angle at the knee. I don't want to have my feet down here for the posture because you're going to have a very difficult time. See if you can open your legs out nice and wide so it actually comes along the outside of your torso. You have a little bit more space to give yourself that deeper flexion. So with the feet up tall, your shins are going to be vertical, feet stacked above the knees. You can grab a hold of the back side of the thighs or start to climb your way up along shins and calves, ankles, the outsides of the feet, or even your big toes using your first and middle finger, your peace fingers. And you're just going to grab a hold of whatever you've got there and plunge the knees towards the ground. So they go down towards the floor, just like that. And then you can even rock your baby side to side. So rocking your happy baby. Feel nice, especially on the low back. It's not only into the hips and the inner thighs, but you might even feel this on the low back. Good. I've had other people explain that this looks like an unfortunate turtle on its back, not able to get up. This also has another name known as dead bug pose, but most commonly referred to as happy baby. All right, let's go ahead and come back to stillness. I want you to bend your knees fully and draw the knees towards each other. Cross your right thigh over the left. So the inner thighs are squeezing. Arms are going to stretch out wide into a T. Then take the knees over to the left. You're going to go in the opposite direction. So that right knee on top kind of lead the way into the twist. Good. Looking out over your right fingertips. Feet are going to be on the floor. The knees most likely will not be on the floor. That's okay if they do get there. Take another full breath. And deep breath out. And then inhale, lift the knees back up through center. You're going to change the crossing of the legs. So opposite leg on top, and then those knees are going to tip over towards the right. Again, the feet are going to come down to the floor, looking out of your left fingertips for this rather deep twist. And just breathing into your left lung. Left shoulder blade slides down away from your face. Another breath. And deep breath out. And then inhale, lift the knees back up through center. Untangle the legs again and give yourself a big hug. And you're going to bring one arm up and overhead. As you roll over to that same side, you're going to let your head rest on top of that arm. Good. Press your top hand into the floor, extend your top leg, and then ease your way up to a comfortable seat. All right, we're going to go into posture known as bound angle. We may have done this before in this practice, in this class. And this posture itself is one that it has two names. So bound angle, which is the actual Sanskrit translation for it, but also referred to as cobbler's pose. So with cobbler's pose, it's named after the shoe cobblers, not the cobbler pie. But you would actually, the cobblers would put the soles of the shoes in between their feet, soles facing up, and they would kind of work on the soles of the shoes that way. And so they would set themselves up in this position to, give themselves the opportunity to work on the shoes. For us, a lot of times we've come into this posture before, whether we've done it in our PE classes and such, and we've tried to jam our knees down. So I want you to instead, we're going to grab a hold of the front of the ankles and shins. And as you're grabbing a hold of those, I want you to press your knees down using the strength of your buttocks. You're going to push down the knees towards the floor using your legs. Okay, so feel your knees pressing down. Keep pressing the balls of the feet together. I know mine like to separate a lot. And you're going to pull up on your spine. So you're lifting up. So as your shins are pushing down, your hands are holding and resisting. You're going to feel like your hands are kind of pulling your legs up, but they're not going to leave the ground. Good. Take another full breath in here. I want you to rock to the front of your sit bones. So moving into that 6 o'clock tilt of the pelvis. Good. And then lifting up. You're going to rock backwards. So round to the spine, tuck to the tail, feel your low back pressing away from you. And then inhale, lifting up. And then exhale, tipping forward, moving to the front of the sit bone. Good. Inhale up. And then exhale, round to the spine, curl, curl, curl. Inhale, lifting up. And exhale, tipping forward. Good. Inhale up. Exhale, rounding back. Inhale up. And exhale, forward and down. Good. One more. Rounding it back. Inhaling up. And exhaling as you tip forward. Good. Now stay in this forward tilt. You might start to notice that there's a deeper stretch that's happening, especially in that groin as part of the hip opening too. Men, see if you can walk your hands out in front of you, still keeping your knees resting down on their own, and then maybe round into the spine. Arching the back, and letting the head come down. Good. Some of you may feel that your head is touching down to your toes. Maybe your head is just hanging down towards the ground. Regardless of where you are, the importance is that you're feeling a bit of a stretch. You're feeling the opening here. You're not going so far that you're feeling pain. Good. Gently lift yourself all the way back up. All right, let's go ahead and make our way up onto all fours into a tabletop position. So you can cross the ankles and roll over those, or you can swing your legs off to one side. I'm going to grab my towel again, my knees. I'll meet you guys in that tabletop position. So the hands are going to be directly underneath your shoulders. Fingertips are spread, gripping down into the mat. And the knees are directly underneath you, top of the feet on the floor. Let's go through our cat-cows. Inhale, belly comes down, chest lifts up. Good, looking forward. And then exhale, round through the spine. Pull the navel in as you round the back. Inhale, open up. And exhale as you round and curl to the spine. Pull the navel up and in. Squeeze from the belly muscles. Good. Inhale, opening up. Collarbones widen. Exhale, round and curl to the spine. Good. Inhale, open. And exhale, curl. Good. Inhale, opening up. And exhale, curl. And inhale, moving right into your neutral spine, so that tabletop position. All right. So I'm going to do an actual foot and ankle stretch right now. I want you to walk your knees and big toes to touch. You're going to curl the toes underneath on both sides of both feet. And see if you can even get those little pinky toes to come down. Now, this can be a pretty intense stretch. Just do the best that you can, and then I'll show you the options in case it becomes way too intense. You're going to walk your hands back and see if you can settle your hips back on top of your heels. Okay? Now, with this, see if you can climb your hands up, up, up until you're sitting all the way upright. You're balancing now on the balls of the feet. The toes are curled under. The heels are going to squeeze in towards each other. I know that they want to kind of separate, but I want you to squeeze them in towards each other on their own. Now, this can be a really intense stretch for some of us. So if you're already starting to feel that this is like way too much for you and your face is trying to like scrunch up, I want you to walk your hands forward and just find whichever level of comfort is easiest or is best for you. Okay, so see if you can work at about closer to about 85 to 90% of your capacity. This can be pretty intense for us. We're not going to be here for very long. I want you to take a full breath in wherever you are. If your hands are on the ground for support, you'll just keep them there. But if you're able to sit upright without your hands, you're going to inhale the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to your chest. Inhale, the arms go wide. Exhale, fingertips interlace. Inhale, chest opens, knuckles reach back. And then exhale, arms down. Inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, the arms wide. Exhale, flip the palms, interlace the fingers, and then inhale, knuckles drop as the chest lifts. Exhale, arms down. One more time. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, arms wide. Exhale, fingers interlace behind you. Inhale, knuckles reach back, heart forward. And then exhale, hands down. Walk the hands forward. Good. And then lift the feet up. Ooh. Just lift the feet up. You don't have to do anything else. Just allow the feet to naturally uncurl. And when you feel like they have curled back to their natural position, then you're going to bring the tops of the feet on the floor and then just do a little light tap. I almost said love tap. So little light taps here, little tap, and then settle back into your child's pose. So hips go back on top of your heels and the forehead comes down to the mat. Good. Any questions on that last stretch for the ankles? I know that was pretty intense for some of us. No? All right. Let's go ahead and continue on. We're going to actually feel that same stretch in a later posture when we're doing our squat pose. So I wanted to make it where you're not going to be limited by the ankle flexibility. Perhaps you might still feel that ankle flex tension and resistance when we're doing our squat, but I wanted to see if we can get into more of the pelvis with that one without the limiting factor of the ankle. All right, so we're going to make our way back into downward facing dog. Toes curl under, hips lift up, and you actually might feel that your calves feel a bit more open and awakened after doing that same stretch. So feel free to, if they're not fully there, pedal through the feet, marching the heels up and down, just shaking the head, yes or no. Good. All right. And from here, I want you to inhale and take your right leg up and back behind you into down dog splits, reaching it nice and tall. Exhale, step the right foot forward between your thumbs. Sink your hips forward and down, lift the chest up. Good, big stretch in that hip flexor. Good, and then planting your left hand on the ground, right hand stacks on top of the knee, going into a little bit of that lunge twist, something that we learned last week. We've done, I think, before that. Good, hips still sinking down, keeping your back knee lifted up. And then right hand comes down, stepping back, downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg comes up high. And then exhale, left foot steps forward between the thumbs. Hips sink down, chest lengthens forward. Good. Getting that big stretch in that hip flexor. And then right palm plants on the floor. Left hand stacks on top of the knee. Move into your twist here. You're still anchoring down through that left heel, reaching up with that right thigh up towards the ceiling, up towards the sky if you're outside. Good, and then left hand comes down, stepping back, downward facing dog. Now walking the feet forward to the top edge of the mat. Come into your standing forward fold. Knees will bend enough so the belly touches onto the thighs. Head drapes down towards the ground. Big shake, yes or no. The fingertips can either just hang there. Maybe you'd like to fold your arms, weaving fingertips into opposite elbow crease, and encouraging those elbows towards the floor. And then releasing the fingertips down. I want you to round through the spine and slowly begin to roll yourself all the way up. Stand. Awesome. Coming into your mountain pose, standing up nice and tall. Arms reach down by your sides with the fingertips lengthening towards the floor. See if you can press into all four corners of your feet, maybe lifting the toes up, especially if you don't feel your arches as much. And feel the energy of the feet rooting down into the ground and then surging that energy back up towards your crown. Good. Inhale, circle the arms wide and high, upward hand salute. Exhale, fold in half, hinging from the hips and taking down. Hands lightly touch the ground. Inhale, right foot steps back into lunge. Hips down, chest lifts, looking up, smile. And then exhale, left foot steps back, downward facing dog. Inhale to come forward into plank, shoulder stacking over the wrist. Exhale, knees, chest, chin to the floor. Inhale to cobra, heart forward, top the feet anchor into the ground. Exhale, bow, press back, downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot steps forward, top edge of the mat. Bring it all the way there. Exhale, left foot forward, standing forward fold. Head drops down. Inhale, reverse the swan dive, coming up that flat back. Reach hands to the sky. And then exhale, arms circle wide and down by your side. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold in half, hinge from the hips, take the hands all the way down. Inhale, left foot back, lunge. Hips down, chest lifts, looking up. Exhale, right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward into plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, bow. Take it back, downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot forward. Get it all the way there. Remember to lift those hips and move the shoulders forward. And then exhale, right foot forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, reverse the swan dive, come up. Exhale to mountain pose. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold forward, hinge from the hips. Inhale, right foot back, lunge. Exhale, left foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale, plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, bow. Send it back, downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot forward, top edge of the mat, looking up. Exhale, left foot forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, reverse the swan dive, come up. And exhale to mountain pose. Inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, fold forward, hinge from the hips and take it down. Inhale, left foot back, lunge. Exhale, right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, bow, send it back, downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot forward, top edge of the mat. Sink the hips, lift the heart. Exhale, right foot forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, sweep the arms wide and high, lifting up. And exhale to mountain pose. Take another full breath here as you stand tall, mountain. Good. And I'll turn to face you so you have a better view. Let's go ahead and work into some of these front stance positions. Inhale, reaching up. Get a little bit of a back bend as well. Good. Exhale. Interlace your fingers and point through the index and reach the arms up and over. Standing half moon. Good. Squeezing from those inner thighs. Pressing down to the balls of the feet. Inhale, lift yourself up. And then exhale over to the other side. Good. Really keeping that bottom arm long. Good. So squeezing up and in towards your left ear. And then inhale, lift yourself all the way up. Exhale, dive forward, hinge from the hips, and take it down. Inhale to a flat back, halfway. And then exhale, fold in half. You're going to inhale, bend your knees, sink your hips, and reach your arms up into chair pose. Good. Then I want you to put the weight into your right foot, little review. Left leg crosses up and over. Toes can stay on the floor. We're going right into our eagle pose. So the arms are going to drop down, right arm on top of the left, bend at the elbows and wrap at the wrist. Maybe that left foot will come up off the floor, and maybe the toes will wrap behind the calf. Sit down and back into the pose. So you're kind of just scrunching into the posture, fingertips reaching up, elbows up towards the sky. Another full breath here. Deep breath out. Untangle the arms. Lift up nice and tall. Release the left foot. And then exhale, hands come down and back behind you. Interlace your fingers. Knuckles drop. Chest lift, lifting up. And then exhale, fold in half. Hands come to your buttocks. Slide the hands all the way down the back of the legs. Pull yourself in. Good. And then inhale, sweep the arms wide and high. Reach all the way up. Interlace your fingers. Point to the index and exhale to the right. Inhale up. Exhale to the left. Inhale up. And exhale, dive forward. Hinge from the hips and take it all the way down. Inhale, flat back. Lift the heart up. Pull the belly button in. Exhale, fold in half. Inhale, chair pose. Knees bend, hips sink, arms reach up. Now the weight goes into your left leg. Right leg crosses up and over, toes lightly on the floor. Sit down and back. Reach the arms wide and cross left on top of right. Bending at the elbows, wrapping a second time at the wrist. Sit down and back as the fingertips reach up towards the sky. Good. Maybe lifting that bottom leg up, that right leg up. And maybe the toes wrap behind the calf. Squeezing in as tightly as you can, maintaining that balance as you engage that drishti, that visual focus, locked into that one point that's not moving. Breathing in and breathing out. Good, untangling legs, reach the arms up. As you release the right foot down, exhale, hands come down and back behind you. Change the crossing, opposite thumb on top. Knuckles reach back, hips forward, heart open. Good, and then exhale, folding in half, belly to thigh, hips up high. Head dunks down low. Good, and then bringing your hands to your hips, slide the hands all the way down, and then pull yourself in for a nice little tuck. Inhale, reverse the swan dive, come all the way up. And exhale, the arms release back down by your side. Good. Let's separate our feet a little bit wider than our hips. Now we're going to move into a squat position. And with our squat, especially if you have some trouble with your ankles and your heels coming all the way down on the ground, what you can do is grab a towel and you're going to fold it up a couple times in the long direction. So you would actually have this as support for your heels. Okay, so with your heels on the towel, the toes would be hanging off. You give yourself a little bit of a lift and you won't have as much of that deeper compression in the ankle. If you do not happen to have that towel, you can do the same thing with your yoga mat. So what that would look like is either rolling up the mat a couple times and then placing your heels directly on top of that, or you can just grab the middle of the mat and then loop it back. So now you've got some extra cushion that way. And then you would place your heels directly on top of that and then have your feet still on the mat. So it is up to you. You don't have to do this with the towel at all or any of that lift, but sometimes that just lends ourselves to a little bit more of that support, especially for coming into this for a balancing position. All right, so your feet are going to be a little bit wider than your hips. Now, I know that a lot of times if people have trouble getting their heels all the way down towards the ground in their squat, that sometimes their feet might be a little too narrow. So if you widen your feet apart, you might be able to get your heels all the way down and start to work into a little bit more of that balance as opposed to balancing on the balls of the feet, okay? So with those heels on the ground, let's start off with the toes turning out to the sides at 10 and 2 o'clock, okay? We're gonna have those toes turn out, and ideally we want our knees to go in the same direction as our toes, okay? So I want you to send your hips way back like you're going into your chair pose, and then slowly start to lower your hips all the way down. All right, so with those hips all the way down, you can start to adjust your feet as necessary and see what you can do. I don't have anybody on video right now, so I can't exactly see what you guys are doing. But in this shape, sometimes the tendency might be to use the elbows to press the knees apart, just like we were doing in our bound angle and using the strength of our glutes to open the knees out. I want you to see if you can do the same thing. So see if you can press your knees apart. There we go. It is okay if your heels are off the ground. Ideally, you would like to eventually work those heels towards the floor. If you can pop on the video right now, and then I can try to see what corrections that we might be able to make. So possibly widening the feet, placing something underneath your heels so that you can actually lower your heels towards either the mat or the floor. So whichever works best for you. But then if you are able to get your heels down, once you are able to, you can see that I have actually my feet pretty wide. They're actually wider than my shoulders. Excuse me. I want you to use your legs to help extend those knees or open those knees apart. Okay, and I'm pushing into the outsides of my feet or the pinky toe sides. I'm sending my shins apart. Good. And that helps so that I'm not collapsing into the arches of my feet. This is a pretty good pose, isn't it? It's called squat. The Sanskrit name for it is malasana. Malasana, and it's in dedication to the mala beads, which are prayer beads, that you use for japa meditation or when you chant with the prayer beads. Each bead, there are 109, 108 of them, which you would pray with. You would say your chant, your mantra. And with that mantra, it's either specifically dedicated to you, or it might be just a mantra or a phrase that has a lot of importance to you as well. And in the posture Malasana, it gets its name because the arms eventually reach around and then link behind your ankles. And if you guys can see that, I'm actually grabbing onto my fingertips here and in this shape. So the arms kind of look like that mala bead or that prayer bead necklace. All right, how you guys doing? This is the original birthing position. And actually a lot of countries and places around the world use this as their, this is how they use their toilet. So they don't actually use a porcelain toilet. This is sometimes a little bit easier for us in a physiological sense that we can actually help to eliminate a lot better. All right, another full breath here. I know it's pretty intense, huh? All right, fingertips are going to lightly touch down to the ground. Lift your hips up and come into your standing forward fold. Rotate the toes forward. Let the upper arms and torso drape down. Wonderful. All right, so still standing at the top edge of your mat, I want you to walk your feet back into your plank position. Good. Exhale, send it back in a downward facing dog. Lift your hips up high. You might feel a deeper stretch in those calves yet again. Good. And then this time I want you to inhale and take your right leg up to the sky back behind you, reaching it all the way up tall. Exhale, right foot steps forward to the top edge of the mat. You're going to go to the outer side of your right hand, the pinky side of your right hand. This next pose, we're going to lower the left knee down to the floor and bring the top of the left foot onto the mat. If this is too much and you're feeling like that left knee doesn't have enough cushion, you can always roll up the side of the mat, the outside of the mat. I'll show you the other side so you can actually see. So take out the outside of the mat, roll it up, and then place the knee down on top of that extra padding. Okay, you can also use your towel here too. That's a quick and easy way, especially with using your yoga mat. So notice how my shoulders are to the inside of my right leg. Okay, my back knee is down. This is the prep for lizard pose, lizard. And with this posture, eventually, you're going to drop down onto your elbows and forearms. Now, if you happen to have a block or a pillow, a super thick pillow, or something that you can support yourself on, you would place the block on the inside of your leg, and you'll lower down onto your elbows. Okay? Eventually, you would lower all the way down to the ground. Okay? Like so. The image of this forward looks like this. You can see how my knee is to the outside of my shoulder. My elbows are propped up here. I'm actually pressing down into the ball of the foot. Okay, I'm pressing down to the ball of the foot, and the knee is hugging around my shoulder. Good. Again, lizard pose. Hi, Tiffany. One of the things that people tend to do is that if they don't have their back knee far enough, they're going to have a difficult time getting into this pose and at least folding forward. So make sure your left knee is as far back behind you as possible. Another thing is that we don't have our the right foot as far forward as we can. I want this right foot to be directly underneath the knee, so the knee and the shin are stacked. Okay, so they're vertical here. All right. Good. Yeah. Pretty good stretch, huh? Yeah. Little lounge lizard. Nobody's lounging in this pose. Good. All right. If you're down on your elbows, I want you to prop up onto your hands. Turn sideways again. And from here, I want you to heel toe your right foot across to your left hip. Okay, so right foot's going to travel at a diagonal towards the left hip or the left edge of the mat. You're going to lower the outside of your right knee onto the ground. We're coming into what's known as pigeon pose. Okay, this is going to be a deep stretch into those external rotators of the hip. Okay, and I want you to feel like your hips are back enough. Good, and that your left leg is straight back behind you. So take a little peek. Make sure your foot is not closer to the outer edge of the mat than your hip is. Okay, so just shoot straight back at the hip flexor thing. Just to get that hip flexor open. And then we're going to start to fold forward over that bent right leg. Okay, so again, another view of this. You can see how my leg and shin is at a diagonal. If you're noticing that folding forward in this shape, you're like, I don't feel much here. You're that person that is the lucky one in the class. Start to heel toe and wiggle your foot forward. So now your shin is more parallel to the front edge of the mat. So instead of being at a diagonal, okay, your foot is more forward, okay? And that might give you a little bit of that deeper stretch that you're looking for so that your elbows kind of line up against that shin. All right, let's take a few more of your deepest breaths here. I really want you to focus on relaxing, softening, easing into the pose, okay? The hips are going to remain balanced, not leaning into one side over the other. We just want to feel like you can give into the ground and be relaxing your neck. Sometimes it feels nice to let your head rest on top of your hands as you're breathing here. I'm just noticing all those areas that still might be resistant. So maybe it's your eyebrows. Maybe it's your hands. See if you can relax your hands. Maybe it's the jaw. Maybe it's your shoulders. Maybe scrunched up towards your ears and neck. Maybe it's in your toes and your feet. And just dropping into the weight of your body. And last full breath here. Good, and then pressing your hands into the floor. You're going to slowly upright your torso. It's going to be a little bit slow. Curl your back toes under. Lift your hips up. Slide your right foot back in a downward facing dog. Ooh. Oh, yeah. All right, pedal through those feet. And take that same right leg up towards the sky. The right leg goes back up towards the sky. Oh, bend the knee. And you're going to make big circles with that right knee. Circle it all the way around. And circle around in the other direction. And then releasing that right foot back down towards the ground. Just take a moment right here just to notice the difference between the two sides, how they feel. And then we'll switch over to the other side. So let's inhale. Left leg comes up towards the sky, straight back behind you. And then exhale, left foot steps forward to the outside of your left hand, going into lizard on this side. So it's the pinky side of the hand, hips sink down. Ooh, those hips take a long time to adjust. Then you're going to lower your right knee down to the floor. Top of your right foot is down on the ground. Hips sink forward and down. Good. Lift the heart up and out in front of you. And then see if you can come down onto your elbows and forearms. Maybe propping them up on a block. As you plug into the ball of that left foot and hug left knee in towards your shoulder. So this posture, as it starts to become more available for you, this becomes an easier way to access those poses like putting your legs behind your head or even getting into splits. So that becomes part of your, your goal or what you're looking forward to working on. Then you can certainly, incorporate this lizard pose into your repertoire. Good. Another 3 breaths here. And still keeping your hips sinking down and forward. And then placing the hands onto the floor, lifting the torso up enough. Good. See if you can move the block out of the way if you have it there, and you're going to heel toe your left foot across into your pigeon pose. So you can start off at that diagonal. So you notice how the foot is closer to my hip as opposed to, if you wanted to get it really into that stretch, you can bring that foot more forward. You can see that there's enough space, and then there's a lot of shin where it's more horizontal as opposed to diagonal. And again, you want those hips to be level. You're not leaning into one side over the other. And then coming down onto your elbows and forearms for pigeon pose. This is actually a variation of pigeon. The full expression of this posture is actually a back bend. You would be sitting upright, your knee would be bent, and you're actually grabbing a hold of your toes with your fingertips. A little bit, a bit advanced for us. But eventually, as we get into our practice, we start noticing that we can do more. And then perhaps in those positions, we lend ourselves to an opportunity to notice exactly what it is that we're capable of doing. Good. A few more deep breaths as you relax here. Again, settling into the hips, relaxing your jaw. And this position, much like any other position, becomes an opportunity for us to meditate. To just notice the sensation. not place judgment on the sensation, but just to acknowledge. And as we're acknowledging the sensation, we feel that we can just relax. And sometimes when we start to label things as good or bad, that we start to adopt other fears and pleasures. Good, last breath here. And then pressing the hands into the ground, just slowly transition out of the posture. All right, back toes curl under. Lift the hips up as you slide left leg back. Ooh, take a moment in your down dog. And then you'll send the left leg up and back behind you, reaching it up towards the sky. Ooh, it does not go very easily. And then bending the knee and making those big circles around and around, going in both directions. Good, and releasing both feet down towards the ground, noticing again how you feel. Now that both sides of the hips are rather open now. Good. All right, and you're gonna walk your feet forward to the top edge of the mat again. And once more, we're gonna come into our squat position. So squatting from here, separate your feet even wider, toes turn out, bend your knees and sink your hips. Ooh. There's something about squatting right after pigeon that is just interesting. Good. Ooh. Last full breath here. And then settling down onto your seat. See if you can come down onto your seat, reaching your hands forward. No hands. Oh, there you go. Nice. Okay, so our next posture that we're going to work on is known as cow face pose. Cow face pose. We're just going to work on the leg portion today. The upper body portion of it is tends to be pretty intense. It's a big shoulder opening posture. So we will save that for next week when we start getting into our back bending poses. All right, so for our cow face pose, there are a couple things that you can do with this. Now, we're going to start off with the upright version or the traditional form of the pose. But if you're noticing you're having difficulty with this, just even sitting, and you don't happen to have a block, you always have the alternative of coming onto your back. So I'll show that option for you as well. All right, so let's start off. I want you to sit back enough so you can bring your right foot to the outer left hip. Notice how my knee is pointed forward. My leg is kind of at a diagonal this way, and my knee is going to line up with my belly button. Okay, I'm going to cross the left leg up and over to the outside of my right hip. Okay, so I'm trying to get those knees, the outsides of the knees, to come down. Okay, so I'm feeling that rotation from the inner thigh. The inner thigh lifts up and around, goes towards the outside. So that's that external rotation that I've been talking about. The feet are going to be by the outsides of the hips. In some forms of the practice, you'll actually be sitting on your feet. It's not going to ever happen for me ever again, not after having 2 kids. All right, so you can have your hands on your feet here. You're going to lift up nice and tall, okay? And then we can either stay in this position or you can start to lean forward and add a little extra resistance or pressure onto that top hip. All right, if you are that person, keep there if you are comfortable with that. if you are that person that you're having difficulty with this pose, if you do have a block, you would actually sit on top of the block, and you might give yourself a little of that extra lift to play with those feet. So you'll notice that my foot actually comes down a little bit more. And so this means that I have more, more to play with. Okay, so more room. Again, if you do not have that block, you have the other alternative where you will be on your back. And if you're on your back, you're going to have that knee lined up with the center of your chest. Okay, you can hold on to just that top knee and pull it in towards you. If you're capable of grabbing a hold of the outside knee, you can hold on to that and pull that in towards you. Or you can even grab onto the feet and pull the feet back towards the direction of your face or the back wall. Okay, so whichever one is something that you can work on today, I want you to sit with it. The name of the pose, cow face, actually kind of sort of resembles an actual cow's face. When we're doing the posture, again, I talked about the arm portion of it. Okay, as we sit in the full posture of the pose, the knees become the lips of the mouth of the cow face. And I've got one ear up top and one ear down below. We've got our toes, which are the whiskers. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you where the eyes are, but they're looking right at you. Good. So that is the posture, and that's where we get the name of the pose. We'll work on the arm portion in a little bit. All right, last full breath here. And if you're on your back, just untangle the legs. Think of like those sprinklers, they kind of like wrap around and just untangle them like that. If you have the block underneath you, take that out, and then we'll switch sides and then put the block underneath. If there's no block, lean back, untangle the legs, and change the crossing. There we go. So we've got the bottom leg down. We're still on the same leg. We're going to be working on the left leg underneath, and the right leg will stack on top. And ideally, you want to get those knees to stack up and line up with your belly button. Try to sink down through that top hip. So whichever leg is on the top, hooking your thumb into your hip crease, pressing that down. Yeah, that can be some pretty juicy stuff there, right? Anchoring that hip down to sort of compensate for flexibility by hiking the hip up sometimes. Okay, and if you're noticing you're doing that, then you may want to have a block underneath. So you saw how that shape is very similar to that shape of that top leg when I have the block underneath me. All right, and then maybe even leaning forward into the stretch and feeling that big stretch. This gets into some of those muscles that get really tight. And one of the more common things that we experience might be, you may have heard of sciatica. And sciatica is actually this catch-all phrase for any time that the sciatic nerve is compressed or pinched. And this sciatic nerve actually extends from actually T12, so your thoracic spine and the very bottom of the thoracic spine, but all throughout the lumbar spine and throughout, and comes through the pelvis and laces through the front of the leg or towards the legs and all the way down towards your ankles. And so if you feel any of that like numbness in your legs, it tends to be one-sided or unilateral, where you feel like a numbness or a tingling, maybe even a sharp shooting pain that will resonate all the way down. Those would be possibly signs of sciatica. Now, sciatica doesn't necessarily mean that you've got tight hips. Sometimes it can be your low back that might be causing any of those issues. But what tends to happen with our hips is that we do have the piriformis muscle that will sit on top of that sciatic nerve. And so if we have a super tight piriformis, sometimes it will compress and push down on it, and it gives us that experience. So perhaps you might experience some relief in this pose doing this stretch for your sciatica. If you aren't experiencing that, it might be something else. So maybe a compression in the vertebrae of the lumbar spine, or some other part of your body that might be experiencing a lot of that compression. So you may need to get it checked out, but you can always try this and see if the stretch works for you. All right, last full breath here. All right, lift yourself up. If you're on your back, roll over to one side and make your way up. If you have the block out underneath you, you can put it to the side, please. And then we're going to lean back and untangle the legs. All right, now this time we're going to go into our seated wide leg forward fold. Good, so all that crossing of those legs. Now let's work into that groin. And you can come sideways on your mat so that you have your heels touching down. Again, we've done this pose before, and I want you to maintain this vertical pelvis, at least to sit, where your toes can stay upright and doing the best that you can. You may want to have a little bit of a bend in your knees, especially if you're having some hamstring flexibility issues, but you can also close your legs in a little bit more and work with less intense stretch. Walk the hands out in front of you. Ooh. Good. And start to lean into the pose. Just lean into it, keeping those legs actively working. Thigh bones feel like they're sucking back up into your hips. So they just kind of back in. Good. Relaxing through the neck. Good. And then slowly lifting yourself all the way up. Tuck your right foot in towards your groin. And we're going to go into a revolved head to knee pose. So a little review from last week. Left elbow is going to come just above the knee. Right arm reaches up and over into that side bend stretch. Good. You have your other options to drop the knee or the elbow down to the inside along the floor, or even the shoulder down onto the leg. Working with whatever degree of intensity is okay for you today. Good, and then lifting yourself all the way up. Bending your left knee, you're going to switch sides, so right leg goes wide to the side. Good, right elbow is going to come just above the kneecap, and left arm reaches up and over into the side bend stretch. Another full breath in. And deep breath out. And then inhaling, lifting yourself all the way up. Scoop your hand behind your knee, come into a cross-legged position, and then just fold over your cross legs. Let the head relax down on top of your hand. If your head doesn't come all the way down, just let it hang. Good, and then slowly press your hands into the ground and gently lift yourself up. Scoop your hands underneath your knees, and we're going to come all the way down onto our back. So as you come onto your back, just feeling your whole body settling into the floor. You're going to heel toe your feet to the outer edges of the mat. We're just going to sway those knees side to side, just like windshield wipers. And sometimes just a little bit of that movement, especially after all of those longer holds or those static stretches can feel really nice just to kind of wipe clean those areas and introduce some more lubrication to the joints, some fluidity back into the body, and then add that circulation all throughout. Good. One more time in each direction. Good. And then tucking your knees back in towards your chest. Bring your forehead up to meet your knees, squeezing into a tight little ball. Lower your head and shoulders down. Extend the legs out in front of you. And come all the way down onto your back again. Again, you also have that option of coming into your half corpse. The knees will bend, the feet will plant, and the arms either down by your sides or even hands resting on the belly. Whichever shape is most inviting right now. And just closing the eyes, relaxing the jaw. The title of the reading today is The Treasure at Our Feet. It is not easy to find happiness in ourselves, and it is not possible to find it elsewhere. Agnes Repillier. If forced to name them, the biggest obstacles to peace are ourselves and the world. Often en route to the truth of my soul, I get stuck in myself or lost in the world, or the reverse. Still, we carry the treasured essence within. It is always with us, very near though, as it may seem far, and there is no place else to find the treasure but underneath our agitation. It awaits there like gold on the bottom of a shallow lake, and though we stand in the water, the treasure at our feet, this stirring of a reflection keeps us from seeing. More often than not, I need to stop moving and thinking and fixing and simply reach within myself. So run if you like, for we'll all come with you. Or think and reason as many times as you must, for your heart will outlast the ripples of your thought. Or blame the things of this world if you need to, for the things you blame will eventually disappear. Then you and I will be still left with ourselves and the world and the treasure at our feet. As you lie here, center yourself. And if there's something you are running from, inhale and let it catch up with you. If there's something you are trying to reason away, exhale and let it touch you. Be still, and as you breathe, let the forces of the world touch you and move on by. Now reach, if you can, with your breath for the treasure waiting within. From where you are, take a full breath in. Let it fill belly, chest, and throat. And exhale all the way out. And take another full breath. And exhale out. With the next inhale, start to circle your wrists and ankles. And exhale, wiggle your fingers and toes. Inhale, arms stretch up and overhead. Reach long throughout the entire body. Reaching through fingers and toes. And then exhale, releasing with the sigh. Draw the knees lightly into your chest. Wrap the arms around. Carefully tipping over onto one side. Carefully tip over onto that side and then pressing your hands into the floor. Extend your top leg. Ease your way up to a comfortable seat. Sitting tall. We'll just take a few breaths here. I want you to just settle into your pelvis, sinking the hips down, feeling the spine tall, elongated. Maybe there's a phrase, a word, a mantra, and something that has importance to you that you'd like to repeat to yourself through your breath. Or maybe you'll just sit here observing the breath and watching it as it flows in and out. And taking 2 more deep breaths. And feel free to unmute yourself for the closing of the practice. And bring hands together at heart center. Bow your head softly forward. The light within me bows the light within you. Namaste.
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 Thank you.
Namaste.